Pocatello, Idaho, a town where shadows stretch long under the desert sun, where whispers of secrets linger in the wind. It was here that Cassie Jo Stoddart, a vibrant young life, was brutally extinguished. Her story, a chilling tapestry of teenage infatuation and cinematic obsession, unfolded with the horrifying grace of a nightmare. The year was 2006. Summer's heat still clung to the air, but a different kind of heat was about to grip Pocatello. A heat fueled by fear and disbelief. A darkness had descended upon this quiet town, a darkness that would stain its soul forever. Cassie Jo Stoddart was a typical teenager, full of life, laughter and dreams. At 16 her world was a mix of school, friends, and the first blush of young love. She was a good student, a loyal friend, a beloved daughter and granddaughter. She had her whole life ahead of her, a canvas waiting to be painted with the vibrant colors of her hopes and aspirations. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Dark, sinister plans that were about to unfold in the most unexpected of places. The late 90s saw the rise of a new breed of horror. The Blair Witch Project, with its shaky camera work and found footage style, sent chills down spines and sparked countless nightmares. It tapped into a primal fear of the unknown, of the darkness that lurks just beyond the reach of civilization. For some, it was just a movie, a fleeting thrill. But for others, the line between fiction and reality blurred. The film's raw, unsettling power wormed its way into their minds, planting seeds of darkness that would later blossom with terrifying consequences. The house stood on Whispering Cliffs Drive, a name that would later take on a chilling double meaning. It was an old, decrepit mansion, long abandoned and left to the elements. The locals whispered tales of its haunted past, of strange noises and ghostly apparitions that had been seen by those brave enough to venture near. The house had a reputation, one that kept most people away, but not Cassie and her friends. Empty, shrouded in darkness, it was the perfect setting for a teenage horror movie marathon. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows lengthening as the night grew darker. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The old wooden floors creaked underfoot, each step echoing through the empty halls. Cassie and her friends were excited, their laughter echoing in the empty rooms. They had come prepared with snacks, flashlights, and a stack of horror movies. The thrill of being in such a notorious location added to their excitement. They joked and teased each other, trying to outdo one another with scary stories and ghostly tales. They thought they were just playing at being scared. The movies were just that, movies. Fictional tales meant to entertain and frighten but not to be taken seriously. They huddled together, jumping at the jump scares and laughing at their own reactions. The flickering light from the TV cast eerie shadows on the walls, adding to the spooky ambiance. But as the night wore on, the air grew thick with a palpable sense of dread. The laughter began to fade, replaced by nervous glances and whispered conversations. The fog outside seemed to creep closer, wrapping the house in a suffocating embrace. The temperature dropped and they could see their breath in the cold, damp air. The darkness seemed to press in, the silence broken only by the creaking of the old house and the pounding of their own hearts. Every sound was magnified, every creak and groan of the old house sending shivers down their spines. They huddled closer together, their flashlights flickering as if the batteries were dying. The sense of being watched grew stronger, an unseen presence lurking just out of sight. Unbeknownst to them, the real horror was about to begin. The house, it seemed, had a life of its own. The shadows moved, shapes forming and dissolving in the darkness. The temperature continued to drop, and the air grew heavy with a sense of impending doom. They were no longer just playing at being scared, they were living a nightmare. The house on Whispering Cliffs Drive had claimed another set of victims, and their night of terror was far from over. Section 5. Silence Falls. The Discovery. The next morning, a chilling silence hung over the house on Whispering Cliffs Drive. Cassie's family and friends, their hearts heavy with a growing sense of unease, went looking for her. They hoped to find her safe, to laugh off the previous night's fears, but their hopes were dashed upon the discovery of her lifeless body. The vibrant young woman so full of life just hours before was gone, her light extinguished by an act of unimaginable cruelty. The small town of Pocatello reeled in shock and horror. Who could have committed such a heinous crime? Section 6. Whispers in the Dark. The investigation begins. The investigation began immediately, a frantic search for answers in the face of unspeakable tragedy. The small town was not prepared for the horror that had struck so close to home. The police force, though experienced, had never encountered a case quite like this. The crime scene was a puzzle. each piece more perplexing than the last. The detectives worked tirelessly, their faces etched with determination and fatigue. They knew that every second counted, that every moment lost could mean the difference between justice and another unsolved mystery. The police, the community, everyone wanted to know who could have done this and why. The town's sense of security was shattered, replaced by a pervasive fear that gripped every resident. Parents held their children a little tighter, neighbors eyed each other with suspicion, and the once tight-knit community began to unravel. The local news stations ran continuous coverage, each broadcast more sensational than the last, feeding the growing hysteria. The whispers of the crime spread like wildfire, each retelling adding to the growing sense of fear and paranoia. Whispers of the crime spread like wildfire, each retelling adding to the growing sense of fear and paranoia. The rumor mill churned out theories and accusations, some plausible, others outlandish. The town was a cauldron of anxiety, every shadow a potential threat, every stranger a suspect. The police had to sift through the noise, separating fact from fiction, truth from speculation. It was a daunting task, but they were determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. Every clue, every shred of evidence was meticulously examined. The detectives knew that the smallest detail could be the key to solving the case. They pored over the evidence, re-examining it from every angle, looking for connections that might have been missed. The forensic team worked around the clock, analyzing samples, running tests, and providing crucial insights. The investigation was a race against time, and the pressure was mounting with each passing day. The house on Whispering Cliffs Drive became a grim monument to a life cut short, a silent witness to the horror that had unfolded within its walls. The once charming home was now a scene of devastation, its rooms filled with the echoes of violence. The neighbors spoke of strange occurrences, of lights flickering in the dead of night, of shadows moving where none should be. The house had a story to tell, and the detectives were determined to uncover its secrets. The investigation was about to take a turn into the surreal, into the dark heart of teenage obsession. The detectives began to uncover a web of intrigue, of hidden lives and secret desires. The victim's friends and acquaintances were not as innocent as they seemed, and the detectives had to navigate a maze of lies and deceit. The case was more complex than anyone had imagined, and the truth was buried deep in the shadows. The investigation was far from over, and the detectives knew that the darkest revelations were yet to come. Section 7, Unmasking the Shadows, the Perpetrators Uncovered. The investigation led detectives to a group of teenagers, friends of Cassie's. They seemed like typical kids, but as the investigation deepened, a chilling picture began to emerge. Two of them, driven by a twisted fascination with the Blair Witch Project, had plotted to kill Cassie. Their motive? To experience the thrill of murder firsthand, to emulate the horror they had seen on screen. The reality of their crime, the sheer brutality of it, stood in stark contrast to their seemingly normal facades. Section 8. Echoes of Blair Witch, the chilling trial. The trial was a media sensation, a macabre spectacle that captivated the nation. The details that emerged sent chills down spines and ignited a firestorm of debate about the influence of media on young minds. The defense argued that the boys were merely mimicking the movie, that they never intended to kill, but the prosecution painted a different picture, one of cold, calculated premeditation. In the end, the jury found the two teenagers guilty of first-degree murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Section 9, A Legacy of Loss, a reminder of the darkness within. Cassie Jo Stoddart's murder sent shockwaves through the small town of Pocatello and beyond. The community, once a picture of tranquility, was suddenly thrust into the harsh glare of the media spotlight. News vans lined the streets, and reporters from across the country descended upon the town, each seeking to capture the essence of the tragedy that had unfolded. It was a stark reminder that darkness can lurk in the most unexpected of places, that evil can wear a human face. The residents of Pocatello were forced to confront the unsettling reality that the perpetrators of such heinous acts could be people they knew, people they saw every day. The sense of safety and security that once enveloped the town was shattered, replaced by a pervasive sense of fear and mistrust. Her story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the power and the potential dangers of media. As the details of Cassie's murder were broadcasted and shared across various platforms, the line between information and sensationalism blurred. True crime stories captivated audiences, but they also raised questions about the impact of such coverage on the victims' families and the community at large. The constant replaying of the tragic event served as a grim reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of human behavior. But more than anything, it was a story of a life cut tragically short, a life full of promise and potential. Cassie was a bright young woman with dreams and aspirations, her future brimming with possibilities. Her untimely death left a void that could never be filled, a stark contrast to the vibrant life she once led. The empty classroom, the abandoned playground, all stood as silent witnesses to the loss of a young soul who had so much more to give. Cassie's memory lives on, a beacon of light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, the human spirit can endure. The community came together to honor her memory, holding candlelit vigils and creating memorials that celebrated her life. These acts of remembrance served as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a collective effort to find light in the midst of darkness. As the sun set over the cemetery, casting a warm glow over the flowers on her grave, it was clear that Cassie's legacy would continue to inspire and remind us all of the enduring power of love and community.